So today I wanted to give my tips for getting started here in Call of the Wild. So what I did was go into my perks and skills and reset them. You can see at the top I have 23 skill points and 22 perk points available, but none of those are spent. So I have 0 perks and skills at the moment, and I only have starting equipment. I've got the 243, the free ammo, and the starting scope, and you can see also I have the deer bleed collar and the Vantage 8x42 binoculars. So my first tip personally is to hunt here on Layton Lakes to get started. You want to get as much experience and cash as you can to unlock the new weapons, be able to buy them, and also to go through levels and gain the skill and perk points to get better at the game and give you more advantages over the animals. So I recommend Layton Lakes. It's easier to hunt with the 243 in my opinion here on Layton Lake than on Hirschfelden or Medved Taiga. I think you're going to be able to have a better time taking down animals and be able to get more of them in the same amount of time. So once you've spotted an animal, of course you should try to hide from it. So currently I'm crouched, and what I'm going to do is find a little spot where I can see pretty well, and then try to call him in with the bleat collar. So certain brush will hide you better than other stuff, and if you look in the bottom right, the middle icon there, it shows how visible you are. So if I stop moving, you see that turns to a line with a little half circle underneath it, that being different than if I would stand up. I'll just do that quickly. You can see, even though I'm stopped, I'm more visible. So crouching is about the same as standing still while stopped. So if we go into this brush, you can see we now just have the line, and if we stop here, it's a really small line, so we're pretty much invisible in here. And I'm just going to move to where I can see the deer a bit better. So I'll just go prone, because I can pretty much see anyway, and that'll give us pretty much the max invisibility, and we'll use our collar. So of course bucks give more experience and cash than does, so if you get the opportunity, you want to take a buck over a doe, and to get the maximum amount of experience and cash, you want to be able to drop the deer in its tracks. You can do that by shooting it in the spine, heart, or neck, and sometimes if you get double lung, although with the starting ammo with the 243, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going for that. So with this guy, we are going to go for a spine shot, so when he gives us an opportunity, we'll let him stop and go for that. So I think we'll have to crouch up to go for this, but since we're in the bush, we should be fine. But we'll be able to see better from crouch, and if we just aim for the spine, drops in his tracks, and that'll get us the most cash and experience for our one bullet. So if we're using multiple bullets, that's going to cost us more cash, although not with the free bullets. But when you're further in the game, it costs you more cash, of course. And that's not something you want early on. Once you get later into the game, cash is not so much of a problem. But if we pick them up here, you can see the spine shot, and with everything at 100%, that is the maximum XP and cash we can get from a 117 trophy rating blacktail. So it may be counterintuitive, but we should be able to call the does back in, even though they've just been spooked. So if we just put out a call, it looks like they're actually on their way back already because they were at a feed zone. Actually, there's even another buck out there, so we're just going to go hide in a bush over here again, and we'll bring them in and try to go for either neck or heart to show you that. Another important thing to look at is the wind direction. So in the bottom right, there's a compass showing which way the wind is blowing, and the green cone is the direction of the wind. So you don't want to be, let's say I'm facing this way and there's an animal this way. That's not how you want it to be. They're likely to smell you and then run away. So we've got a doe out here. I don't want to be approaching it from that angle, although with the does, generally you'll get away with it. But if it's a bigger buck, you're not really going to be able to get it very close. Another little tip, you can actually crawl around in the grass and push it down. So in this instance, I couldn't really see that well where the deer was from prone by this bush. And you don't have to be prone, but of course it does help. So I'm just going to push down that bit of grass, and we should be able to see the buck coming in while we're prone, and we now can without the grass in the way. Also, this might not make sense, but animals spooking will not spook other animals. So if this white-tailed doe spooks, she can run right past this black-tailed buck, and it's not going to affect him at all. So this guy's approaching us from head-on, so I think we'll go for the neck, and we're going to stand up to get a little more height. That way, if we do miss the neck, potentially the penetration will take the shot into the spine or into the lungs. I like to be above animals if I'm going for the neck for that exact reason. You get that little bit of a cushion if you do make a bad shot and miss the center of the neck there where the neck bone is. We actually got a gold out of this as well, but you can see with the 243 starting ammo, you're really not going to get that little bit of a cushion. The penetration is not going to bring it into the lungs or spine if you miss the neck bone, but it's a good practice to get into because when you get ammo that does penetrate a bit better, if you miss the neck, sometimes you can get down into the spine or lungs and get lucky and not have to track nearly as far, or sometimes even at all. So I do just want to show where to aim to get a heart shot as well, in case that's your personal preference. And actually, this is kind of my favorite angle to go for it, kind of when they're quartering towards me like this. So actually this will work as well, but just right in between the front legs. And as you can see, she dropped in her tracks, and if we pick her up, you will see, in fact, that we did catch the heart, although for some reason there's a little bug with that, and it's saying we shot her from back there, but of course we shot her from the opposite angle like this. You can see that is where the heart is, right in the center between the front legs. That's what you want to go for if you're going for heart, and it can be safe as well, because of course if you miss the heart, you can get one lung or the other, or sometimes even both. So it's not a bad shot to go for. I personally do go for spine more than that, because the spine is of course bigger. You get a little more leeway left and right, and actually just a tad more up and down on most animals as well. But my biggest tip for beginners is to shoot every animal you see. You need the experience to level up, and therefore gain skill and perk points, which will give you more advantages while you're hunting, and you need the cash to buy the bigger weapons that are going to allow you to take down bigger animals more easily. And speaking of taking out bigger animals, I'm going to show you how to take out a moose, the biggest animal here on Layton Lakes, with the 243. However, I do recommend you unlock the 243 polymer tip bullets first. They have twice the penetration that the soft points do. So if you look at the soft points in the top right, the penetration stat is 15. But with the polymer tip, the penetration is 30, so twice as much penetration makes it so much easier to take out the moose, and it's really not that much rifle score. So you hunt deer for a few days, maybe not even that much, and you should be good to do this. That's not to say it can't be done with the soft point bullets. However, you really need almost the perfect angle to get the penetration needed to hit the spine, which is how we're going to do this. We're going to go for a spine shot when we find a moose. So of course, one of the problems with trying to take out a moose with a 243 is that if you're trying to do that, you probably don't yet have the moose collar unlocked. So therefore, what I recommend doing is trying to stock up to them in a feed zone like they're at now, because you have plenty of time. You can pretty much just prone to within range if you want. That way you're pretty much guaranteeing that you're not going to alert them. As long as the wind's not blowing from you to them, you should be fine to take your time and get in range. So once you get to a range where you're comfortable taking a shot, I recommend going for spine or neck depending on the angle. And we've got a bull moose here, and he is broadside, so we pretty much want to go for spine. So once this cow gets out of the way, we're going to go for that. Now he is going to run, but hopefully if we caught the spine, he won't be going far. Using the 243 and the polymer tips, they tend to only run for a few seconds. So we'll see what we have here for blood. And from the looks of things, we got a lot of blood here, which means he will not be going far. And actually, he is down right there. So that's how you do it with the 243. I do recommend, again, the polymer tips. They just make it so much easier. We'll pick them up and see how much penetration we got through the spine, and then compare that to what the soft tips would have done. But as you can see, we got pretty much through to the other side of the spine. So with the soft tips, you pretty much need the perfect angle. You want to go through as little flesh as possible. You can see there's a bit of a angle here. It's not perfectly straight going into the spine, and I'm guessing the flesh would have stopped a soft tip from getting all the way to the spine there. But that's how you do it with the 243. You can do that on elk. You can do that even on bison on Hirschfelden. For those, I definitely recommend the polymer tips, but it's very possible to take down even the biggest game with the starting 243. So those are my tips for starting out in this game. Try to get your cash and XP up by taking out as many animals as you can, and when you get an opportunity for a moose or elk, if you're interested in taking it out, really take your time and try to make that spine shot, because otherwise, if you end up with a flesh wound, you're just simply wasting your time, and you're going to have to try to track it down again. And stalking up to an animal that is spooked is much harder than stalking up to an animal in the need zone.